Do you see the risk of a showdown?
Well, we are now watching here the global growth, and we see risks to the downside, but I think that overall the world economy and also the EU economy is quite solid now. Our fundamentals are much sounder than they used to be. Our public finances, employment, job creation, fiscal policies also now on a more credible path. Banking union has been designed. So I think that Europe is now stable in expansion, and we are above our potential. We need to reinforce that potential, to upgrade it, and for that we need to have a long-lasting efforts in reform. We are, of course, watching the risks. Some come from the outside, the most important one being obviously trade. Trade wars would create a problem if they were to generalize or to intensify. And we are also watching risks from inside the EU. I think we can notice them, but they're here, and they're here to be addressed. That's our duty as political appointees.
But that rejection of the Italian budget, could that lead to a showdown? Is Europe on the brink?
We have not rejected the Italian budget. What will happen is that when I come back from Bali, Monday morning in Brussels or afternoon, I will receive the draft budgetary plan of Italy and all Eurozone members. And then we will have to react on this budget. We have had a first sight, and our first reaction was to say that there is a risk of significant deviation because this budget, as we know it, doesn't seem to respect the rules that have been designed by all EU member states, and rules which are in the interest of the Italian people themselves. Because what are they made for? To reduce the burden of debt. And the public debt in Italy is 130%. And this is why not only nominal deficit, that famous 2.4, but also structural deficit needs to be reduced. We are going to analyze that. We are going then to react. We are going to pursue dialogue with the Italian authorities. I will be myself in Rome at the end of next week. And so let's cool down. It's not in the interest of the Eurozone to have a crisis with Italy, and the Commission is certainly not in the mood to create that. But it's not in Italy's interest to have a raising public debt. It's not in the interest of Italians. You know, the Italian people, the Italian government likes to speak about budget for the people against those bureaucrats in Brussels. I'm not a bureaucrat.
But Commissioner, Italy has made it clear it is adamant it will not change its fiscal goals. Why are you still upbeat or optimistic a deal could be struck?
Because it's my duty to make sure that the rules are respected, and to do that in a respectful manner, to be in constructive dialogue with the government and try to persuade them that it is their interest, not my interest, not something coming from a bureaucrat, to reduce the debt. Because who in the end reimburses the debt? Who is accountable for that? The citizen in Italy. Who has the burden on his shoulder? The citizen, not the guy in Brussels. And this is why I will try until the end to convince the government, and especially the finance minister, that it's in the interest of Italy to get closer to the common rules. We might not be in full agreement, but we need to have an effort of rapprochement so that we can see that Italy is still what it must be, a core member of the Eurozone.
If there are no changes made, would you accept the budget?
I'm never the what-if guy. I will take that step by step. Now I'm waiting for the budget. Then we will analyze the budget. Then it's probable that we will react, that we'll have an exchange of letters with the Italian government, and then we'll see. So for the time being, let's not put some more excitement on the fire.
Deputy Premiers Salvini and Di Maio have been pretty harsh in their comments. In fact, one of the comments was that bureaucrats in Brussels are the enemies of Europe. Such comments, does it make it even more difficult for you to find a solution?
I think we must have on the one hand politics and on the other hand our common work. As a politician, I don't agree with Mr. Salvini. Mr. Salvini shows himself with Madame Le Pen, and as a Frenchman, I combat Madame Le Pen and the extreme right. So we're very clear. But as a commissioner, I've got a duty to be neutral and to act by the rules. The rules are my book, and that will be my attitude. So I won't respond to any kind of provocation. I will just pursue dialogue because I love Italy, whoever runs the country, because I think that the Italians deserve to have a government who leads them to a strong position in the Eurozone, and that will be my only line.
Commissioner, Italian banks are under a great deal of pressure. Do you see any risk of contagion?
Well, again, let's not jump to conclusion. I'm quite sure that if there is a will, there is a way, that we can still find a way to be absolutely like we must be together at the core of the Eurozone. So, and the Italian banks have made also very strong efforts to improve their own situation.
Earlier you talked about how growth in the Eurozone is above trend. Some have said that that won't be the case if you don't solve the issue in Italy, in Greece as well. Your thoughts on that?
No, that's not what is essential. What is essential is that our potential growth, which is around 1.3% to 1.4%, raises. And for that, we need to have more structural reform that enhance our own economy. I will take the example of Italy. I understand that some in the government want to fight poverty or to act for social inclusion or to invest more. They can do it with a serious budget. It's just a matter of political choice. But the true problem for the Italian economy is a bit different. It's how to lift productivity. The productivity in Italy has been too weak for decades. And this is why today the Italian growth is too slow. And that's on that we must build. And each of our countries have its own problem, its own failures, its own difficulties, and each of them needs to have tailor-made reforms. That's the case also for the country I know best, France.
Commissioner, Italy on the one hand, Greece on the other. Is the government in Greece right in asking to scrap the pension cuts?
First, if you look at Greece, this gives you optimism about Europe because we are now out of those 8 terrible years of program for Greece. We fought so hard, and they fought so hard to get there, and I'm really happy that now this program era is behind us. And I will receive also the budget of Greece. It will be the first time since the Stability and Growth Pact exists, because before it was outside of the normal semester because it was in a program. So the situation is getting better, also for growth, etc. For the pensions, my answer is the following. First, I will discover the figure of the budget. And if the surplus is higher than what is required from Greece, and the primary surplus of 3.5% is already very high, then we will have to consider how the surplus can be used. But first and foremost, we need to know what is the primary surplus, what is the budget surplus for Greece, and this is why also I went for the Greek budget on Monday, and then we will have a dialogue with the Greek authorities and also a dialogue with the members of the Eurogroup to know whether this can be used this way or that way. I consider that now that Greece is out of the program, it's free to define its own policy, and that it would be legitimate that there are some social measures. But it's not up to me to say about the pensions. I recall that the pensions are supposed to be reformed under the previous program.
But in your view, do you think the creditors will let the plan go through? What's the sense you're getting?
My sense is that creditors have, of course, been very watchful about Greece, but that they understand that they cannot ask too much from the Greek people. That it's time now that the Greek people who have made so many efforts, who suffered so much during the crisis, unemployment at 27 at one moment, youth unemployment at 50%, pensioners who have lost a part of their revenues, families who saw their children go away because there was no business or no job in Greece. It's time that they see that their efforts bear fruits, and that the creditors are human beings. The creditors are not machines. The creditors are not all of them pro-austerity. So I think that if Greece comes with a credible plan, respecting the commitments of Greece, because commitments have to be respected, then it can be considered. But first and foremost, let's be credible. And I am waiting for a credible budget from Athens also on Monday. I discussed that often with Alexis Tsipras and Euclid Tsakalotos, and I think that they are aware that first they must respect their commitment and that then we can discuss.
Commissioner, just one final question. Greek banks have had a pretty rocky ride. Are investors concerned? Should investors be concerned?
there are solutions, and we are working on it. And so I think that we are working on a solid banking system all over Europe. We've reinforced this with banking union. We need even to do more on that.